welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Good morning.
And Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Hello.
It is August 30th, 2021. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post videos. Latest video is a video about Returnal, the PS5's excellent roguelike from Housemarque.
Oh, I forgot their name too. I couldn't help you on that one.
You did it. We believed in you.
Lots of news to get into. We had a show last week. Yeah, I was about to say we didn't have a show last week.
Oh, we
did. We record on Mondays now. So it's kind of strange.
And I wasn't here.
So. And you weren't here. Yeah. So we didn't have a show in spirit.
Yeah.
Because Richard wasn't here. But we'll get started with what we've been playing. I've been playing a lot. Richard, have you been playing?
Yeah, I think I've been playing a lot.
I've been playing a little.
Playing a little? We'll start with Connor, because I think you and I want to talk about Icky Island maybe a little bit.
Oh, yes, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That is one of the things I've been playing.
So Connor, go ahead.
So the two video games I played this week, we played about an hour ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you haven't been playing anything.
No, which was Game Day 2004 and Game Breaker 2001 for the PlayStation 2.
So I got a capture card.
Yeah.
And I have an adapter for composite video, whatever it's called, the red, white, yellow. And so I dusted off old consoles, got out PlayStation 2. I've got
I saw your PS2. You didn't dust it.
Metaphorically dust off. Physically, there's plenty of dust on it. And we played some old school football. It is hilarious.
How terrible those games are.
It's in Game Breaker 2001. You can lateral the ball, and if no one's behind you,
it's
you
just a fumble
it, and your character fumbles the ball like they're pitching, like it's a 98-mile-an-hour fastball directly behind them. It's hilarious. And also, like if you press square, if square lunges your character, dive. So if you're on the offensive line, defensive line, and two guys are blocking each other, if you're playing defense, you can switch to the guy on defense, hit square, and he'll dive through the offensive lineman and knock the offensive lineman back. It's hilarious. Old sports games have gotten worse over the years because they're not like because now it's about microtransactions and Instagram. It's not about.
There was a definite rise and fall of sports games.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played the last one. It was Madden. The one with Gronk on it, like 17 or 18, one of those. I don't remember. But
the last sports game I actually played was The Show 16, so.
But you could, I remember there was an NFL game where you could create your own formations and plays, and maybe you can do that in the new ones. I don't know. But it just feels like it's so much more cynical nowadays.
I think there was this big push for realism in the mid-2000s, late 2000s. And I mean, there was back then too, but it was more like visual, like realism, like looking like the characters and stuff. And then it just kind of, got too realistic, and it's like, it's too stiff. Like you have fun, obviously, but now competition rather than just like fun. And then of course, obviously you can't have blitz anymore because of
licensing
concussions and stuff. Like, they don't want to
destroy.
It's just remake NFL Street.
Right. But I think that's part of the problem because I haven't played a football game since NFL 2K5. Yeah. And that was when they were like still not really realistic.
Yeah. The I don't know what the best Madden is. A lot of people think I think Madden 2009.
I was going to say late 2000s.
Is a lot of people's favorite. And then the college football games are a lot of people's favorites. And the last one, Denard Robinson, I think that was NCAA 2014. I think was the last year.
That is correct.
But anyway, okay. Well, Connor, is there anything you'd like to say about those games? I'm sorry.
Okay, so in Game Breaker, we found a really cool mode.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
It's called Fantasy Game, and you could add points for, like, if you get a sack, you get so many points. If you get a 10-yard pass, you get so many points. 30-yard rush, so many points. And the score just racks up.
Yes, it does.
At the end of the half, it was 81-67.
Yeah, it was
and we
crazy.
Scored 3 touchdowns, maybe.
Nice. Most of the points came from yardage and ridiculous sacks. Yes. That was crazy. That was funny. And I miss modes like that. Or in NCAA, you could do mascots, where the entire team was the mascot.
Oh, the zips.
And everything was 99.
Yeah.
And so the Akron Zips, their mascot, was a kangaroo. So you had these cartoony kangaroos, and every character stat is 99. So it's just this crazy game where everyone's running super fast.
We always did the same two teams. It was always the Zips versus the Orangemen.
Because it's just a guy in a
giant orange suit.
Just in an orange suit, yeah, which is hilarious. It looks so funny. Good old Syracuse. Yeah. Anyway, that is the Orangeman. It doesn't make any sense though because
he just has the orange for a head, and he's.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, but they're not named after oranges. The Syracuse Orange Men.
Yeah,
their mascot's a literal orange man, yeah, like a bad comic book where a guy falls into gamma rays and orange slices him and somehow melts or something. You know,
Mike Turner's a mild-mannered janitor eating an orange when he was hit by gamma rays.
Gamma rays, and now he's Orange Man. He doesn't do much.
Spreading vitamin C where it's needed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Connor.
Of course,
we'll have to make a video or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been playing Squad, but I don't want to talk about Squad.
We talked about Squad last week. Go listen to it.
It's a horrible game.
I'm just telling you, you need a Logi driver.
Ghost of Tsushima, Icky Island, which I really like. I think that's basically the only thing I've been playing. Oh, and I got back into Phasmophobia. So Phasmophobia has had some really cool updates.
Yeah.
And there's one really cool update now where the tool is called the Dots projector, and it's this. Oh. It looks really neat. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a projector. You set it on the floor or wall or even the ceiling if you can reach the ceiling, and it just projects like a
field of
like dots,
laser points,
kind of like kind of looks like a disco ball almost, right? And if the ghost walks through there, you can see them as they walk through there.
That's neat.
Really
That's
quickly.
a cool idea.
And only certain ghosts will trigger it. So if you see the ghost, then that's one of your evidence. So like if you detect EMF 5 as evidence, the dots is also an evidence. So you'll set down a dots and you may not see it. They've also made the game a lot harder, which I enjoy.
Okay.
Because it just wasn't super challenging before. I think we just got it down too well. Now it feels like you can.
Well, we got it down well because you guys would do the stuff and then I would go top the ghost until it.
That may be true.
Until it aggroed and then take a picture of it when we went home.
But it feels a lot more difficult now, which is fun. And I don't think they added any new maps, but there's new lighting that looks really good. So yeah, just all overall improvements, and it was a lot of fun.
I will have to say the last time we played it, I played in VR, and that like changes the dynamic of the game entirely. Because you're able to do ridiculous, stupid things that shouldn't normally happen, like put my hand around a wall and then have my flashlight in the building while I'm outside the building and look around. Stick my head in the building and be outside of the building.
yeah, right.
VR is such a wonderful thing.
That's what they did when Fallout 4 VR came out. Like there's things that were locked behind cases you could just like grab it and pull it out. So I think that's one of the interesting things when you have a game that becomes a hit when it's in early access. It's like, at that point, does your game start becoming influenced by the audience that you have? Like is your vision like no longer there? Or did it change? I mean, because
little column B.
Right. All visions change during development, but you don't hear about it. It's all internalized. Yeah. But if you have an early access game now, it's out. It's out there. And so I wonder how the response would have been if no one got to play Phasmophobia until this update.
Yeah.
Compared to last year when it hit big. Neat to think about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially multiplayer games and co-op games.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. Okay, but sorry. So other games you've been playing?
Yeah, most of my last 2 weeks have been filled with so much Splitgate. I have been playing lots and lots of Splitgate.
Okay.
And if you guys don't know what Splitgate is, it is literally Halo with portals.
Okay.
And so gameplay is exactly like Halo. I can't. It's Halo with no grenades. There's no grenades.
Okay.
But there's BR, sniper rifle, shotgun. It's all Halo. Every single match type is Halo. There's SWAT. There's zombies. There's teams. There's
big team
Slayer. There's no big team battle. But
that's a shame.
But throughout all of your maps, it's just littered. It's a normal looking area, but of course, here and there are placemats where you can place your portal. And for me, I'm playing on PS4, PS5. So L1 and R1 will be your left portal and your right portal. So you can shoot there, and then look through your portal and see if there's any
ridiculous.
Like, you can look through your portal and see if there's any guys there. You could even, like, I could be standing outside of the portal, and it won't show you until you, like, put your head in, which is good. But if I'm standing there and some guy just happens to shoot into my portal, the bullet will come through.
Oh, okay.
So it's like they take that into account as well. And so when me and my friends were playing it, first off, we were blown away by how fun it was. Mm-hmm. It's the same game that we want from Halo, I guess, but, you know, with the mixture of portals put in. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's easy, but we're pretty good. Up until a point. And then you start encountering guys who just know, like, they just know how to play the damn game. Because I know how to play Halo. And portals I can get, but there's some people where it's kind of the inverse. Like, portals they just get. They just understand. Like, the map where, like, a guy can shoot a portal halfway across the map and then end up right next to me just because he knows that's where he's going to pop out. And so when you encounter guys like that, it's really terrifying because you just will get killed out of nowhere. And that's a problem I have is when you get a portal, like, thrown behind you that's like an enemy portal, you don't hear it. At least I don't when I play, so I don't know they're there. So I wish you would hear it. That way you can at least be aware, but I don't know if that's something they'll add. But, of course, they've gotten a lot of... Splitgate's been out for like 2 years, apparently, like in like early access, like beta.
Oh,
but
that long? Huh?
Yeah. But
I've heard of it before, but I didn't know it's been out that long.
Like a year or two, I don't know. Okay. But 2019, maybe 2020. But now, of course, it's hit it big, and it was in beta. And I think it still is. They're on season 0 is what they're calling it. But it no longer says beta at the bottom of the screen when you play it. So I don't know if that means like they're officially early access or like full release or whatever. But it's a hell of a game. And there are... It's free to play too, I think. But there are maps where, you know, I run around and it's like, oh, this is obviously like designed to be like the midship of this game, and this is obviously designed to be like Lockout or something like that. But it's very good, and I can't stop playing it with my friends because it is, I guess, an itch that's waiting to be scratched. That I don't get from Call of Duty or Apex Legends or something. Okay. But when it's fun, it's fun. When it's not, I don't want to say it isn't fun. It's just there's guys who are better than you, and you know it just because there's that aspect you're missing. But that's a really, really fun game that I've been playing. It
sounds a little disappointing that there's not grenades because
that would seem like it would be chaotic.
Grenades coming from so amazing.
The only grenade you have is sorry, I forgot about this feature, but if there's someone who throws up a portal, for me, because I'm playing on PS4, you can press down on the D-pad and you do throw a grenade, but the grenade disperses their portal.
Oh, interesting.
So you can shut it down. Yeah. So, so if they come through and you don't want them to have a way back out, you can just disperse that portal quickly and then take them out.
I want to play this, but I want to like, are the portals still active in zombie mode? Like, do the zombies get portals? Because that just seems terrifying.
Because that was just added, so I haven't played that yet. Okay. I haven't played it yet. I'm curious about that now. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, of course. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities for trick shots and like wild plays that I'll be able to see. But it is fairly enthralling, especially if you're a big fan of Halo.
Okay.
Been playing Splitgate, a little more Apex Legends. You know what? I think I mean, I was talking to you before the podcast. Like I said, I got a new GPU and I've been doing a little bit of VR here and there, but nothing too crazy. Sword and Sorcery, I have to reinstall the Star Wars mod because I don't have the Star Wars mod on there, but I'm going to reinstall that sucker and I'm going to play with that thing.
I've seen Skywalker.
I've seen some videos of that. It looks ridiculous. So fun. Just so fun. Drop kicking Yoda.
The only thing I don't like about Blade and Sorcery is that there's not necessarily like a story mode to speak. It's just kind of just spawn these guys. You fight waves, but spawn these guys when I want them to. Blah blah blah. And it's fun, but I always like my end games.
Sure.
Okay. And then of course we can move on. And Ghost of Tsushima is also something I've been playing. So.
I love the Icky Island expansion thus far. I think the story is really interesting.
Yes.
I think there's a new armor set that makes the combat, I think, even better.
Oh.
It's an armor set though, so some people may be disappointed because, I don't know, maybe they want it to be something else and not attached to an armor set. I won't spoil what it does.
Sure.
And it's kind of
I think it's one of the legend you got to go. Yeah. I haven't quite done that yet, but
there's a new set of armor and it changes the combat in a way where it makes it harder but more rewarding. Kind of feels like, how do I put it's riskier there. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But I
like risky.
I really enjoyed it. I think I've explored the entire island and I've done most of the like liberating the camps and stuff like that and taken out most of the Mongol forces. I haven't completed the story. I'm still a little away from that. But I really enjoy the story thus far because Jin, even in the first game, or in the original content,
in the base game,
I think Jin was a little bit of a Boy Scout. Like he was at the very beginning of the game, he was perfect. Like he was always super nice, and he was always super nice to his subjects. At the very end of the game, it was sort of the same thing. And I don't know, he had to make choices when it came to his uncle and wider samurai like honor code and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I don't think he ever had a character flaw. I don't know. Does that make any sense? I think you can compare him a lot to like Bruce Wayne and Christopher Nolan or Christopher Nolan's Batman's, right? Because he sort of goes down this path and he becomes some, sort of a hero that instills fear into the enemy, right? Stuff like that. But the difference is in Christopher Nolan's Batman's, like Bruce has to overcome things, right? Whereas Jin overcomes things, but he's I don't know how to put this. He's just always perfect all the time. Like he always knows the nicest things to say to people, and he always tries to talk his way out of situations and stuff. I'm not explaining myself correctly. But anyway, with Icky Island, he's a little bit less of a Boy Scout because now the people on the island do not like him. So he was a savior on Tsushima, but here because of the legacy of his father coming over with a samurai to quell a rebellion, people do not view the samurai in the same way, which is historically interesting, right? And I think gives his character more weight because he's not just this Luke Skywalker person who upsets his uncle. Well, and his uncle's clearly wrong in the context of maybe morality today, right? Does any of that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'll have to play Icky Island.
I guess he never really internally struggled with these things. Like he made the decisions, but it really up until the end, it wasn't really like should I be doing these things? At least that's kind of how I remember in the game mostly.
Yeah, because I think he does have a struggle with. He does feel bad about it, but he also doesn't think there's a choice.
Yeah.
I think there's a big disconnect because you'll have the character being like, oh, I can't do this, it's not honorable, and then you get out of the cutscene, it's like, well, here I go killing again, just sneak up behind these guys, stab them.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, I'd have to look back on like some of the cutscenes and stuff, but. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make with Icky Island is that now he's much less of like a perfect character. And even like when we would go back in time and learn about his history or it wasn't his mother, his grandmother, I think, the woman he meets later in the game.
Oh, his estate?
Yeah,
I think it's his caretaker.
His caretaker?
Yeah.
Like, even they had a history that was like perfect, but it's him and his father. That's where the checkered history comes in. And his life isn't this perfect prince who has to make a decision against the other leaders of the country. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not explaining myself well. But I think Icky Island does a better job of rounding out his character. And and making him overcome something that's not just I have to disappoint my uncle. Because I don't actually think anyone thinks what Jin is doing is morally reprehensible, right? Maybe in the context of samurai in the 14th century or whatever, sure.
But at the end of everything, they're always grateful or thankful for what he's done, regardless of how he's done it.
Yeah. And within the context of what's the just war, like in the just war theory, right? Like what is okay in a war, right? I don't think anything Jin does is too brutal or crazy or anything like that. You may want to argue about the poison darts he uses, and that would be interesting. Anyway, sorry, you talk about it now. I'm done. I'm stupid.
I'm interested in like some of the things that I never really cared to ask about the first game. They introduced his father in the first game, and obviously his father dies in a battle, which I didn't have to question that because that's just, he died in a battle. You know? But now at the beginning, we find out that battle was at Iki Island. So that's why you return, and that's why everyone hates the Sakai clan down there, which is understandable. But what happens upon Jin affects him throughout what I'm going to assume is the entirety of the expansion, and I think they utilize it very well. It's basically the same thing that happens in Halo 3, if you remember.
With Cortana's rampancy.
Yeah, like every now and again, like Grave of Mind will stop you or Cortana will stop you to crawl. Just kind of like have these hallucinations. Jin has those as well, but I think they're utilized in a better way than like Halo 3 did it. Granted, it's been like 13 years.
Sure.
But there were times where I don't know if it's completely random or I don't know if it's like actually scripted, but there was a point in time where I was in a battle and I parried a guy. I parried the guy, lightning struck, and the effect quickly came in, and the villain began to speak to me and basically like taunted me about how I fight against the enemies. And I don't know if that has happened to you at all.
I think it triggers at random things. I jumped off a hill at one point.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of damage.
Yourself? Yeah.
There was no enemies around. I was just exploring, trying out like a puzzle. And as soon as I took all that damage, he had one of his visions. And so I think there's certain things that'll trigger it in the open world. Another thing that's interesting is, and I guess this is, I wish I could better explain myself, because I guess one thing that makes Jin's character more interesting here is that he suffers from what I think is PTSD. Because he doesn't just have memories of his childhood, but he comes upon things that remind him that bring to him memories of specific instances, right? So he sees a body that has its head cut off, and it goes back to a specific instance of someone he knows getting his head cut off, right? And these are things that made him who he is today, and things that he's still sad about. So it's trauma in his life. And again, the brilliant... I don't think this is a spoiler because it's obvious right off the bat. Yeah. But the brilliant sort of switcheroo is you're not really ever sure how to feel about his father. You're like, his father was strict, samurai.
Yes.
But as you play into Iki Island, you're like, his father's kind of an asshole.
Yes, he is.
Is he evil? Again, within the context of 1314 Samurai Code, no. But this game, I don't think, is made to be viewed through that
critique of
through that prism anyway. But his father's also not neglectful as you go through memories and things like that. So it's just a really fascinating look into his legacy. And it also he also has memories of his mother. And that's when things get really, really interesting.
Okay, awesome.
Not memories, but he'll talk about her.
Yeah.
And
I have encountered those already. I'm sorry. I have.
The animal nurseries.
The deer sanctuary particularly.
Yeah. And if you notice, his memories about his father are always uncertainty. Do I live up to your standards? Was what you did right? Should I not like you? His memories of his mother are like she was the person that brought me up. She taught me compassion. She taught me, to think. She taught me. So he has this sort of friction with his father, but with his mother, there's a different mood there. And I think just that little dynamic made his character a lot more interesting, because he's not just the prince who decides, I'm going to save the kingdom. Now he's the prince that I'm going to save the kingdom, but he's got this other baggage behind him that I think makes him more interesting. So, yeah.
I haven't done much in it, but it's still the same great game that we played last year, and still stunningly gorgeous.
Oh my God, on the PS5.
even more so this time.
I can't even believe what I'm looking at sometimes.
Yeah, I've already had to take pictures just in general, but I did have some relearning to do when I played, because I forgot what I was playing beforehand. Oh yeah, Genshin Impact. I was playing more Genshin Impact, and that has kind of ruined me, because there's gliding aspects, and now every third person action game I play, I'm like, it's just a quick glide over there, oh right, crap, I can't. So and then I forgot how to parry. I forgot how to, and man, I've been getting my ass kicked a lot, because the enemies on Iki Island are as if you are at full power at the end of the game of Ghost of Tsushima. Like, it's not giving you a break. So I've gotten my ass kicked a lot already. But
and they have some tough. They're enemies with some new weapon types that do some tricky attacks.
Oh, okay.
That you have to like I don't know. There's guys with staves that have long. It's like a spear, but it's not a spear. It's called something else. I don't know. But they'll like feign an attack real quick to make you jump, and then they'll do a big swing attack, and it'll land right where you jumped.
Yeah, they got that reach.
Yeah. Or they have like a spin attack that they'll do. So there's a couple enemies now, and there's also guys that'll switch weapons. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, I have. I have noticed that.
They'll have a shield out. They'll put their shield on their back and get out two swords. And if you use the stances a lot, you'll have to switch stances if you're fighting them, which is cool. I'm excited for you to get that armor though, because my favorite armor was the Ronin one, which wasn't armor, robes, but whatever. And then once I found this new armor, it makes the game harder, but I think a lot more fun. So you'll have to check that out. Yeah, I'm really excited. Anything else?
No, we can move on.
Okay. I'm gonna talk about Squat. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not talking about Squat.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click. It helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
The California Department of Fair and Equal Housing has expanded its Activision-Blizzard lawsuit and says Activision-Blizzard interfered with the investigation. This was first reported by Axios. The lawsuit now includes temporary workers to the full-time female employees for whom they're suing on behalf of. The California Department of Fair and Equal Housing says that Activision-Blizzard has attempted to stymie their lawsuit through non-disclosure agreements, requiring employees to talk with the company before coming to the department, and through its involvement with Wilmer Hale, which is the third-party lawyer firm they hired to look into the company. It also alleges that Activision Blizzard HR shredded documents related to the investigation and complaints. An Activision spokesperson told Axios that those claims were untrue, saying, quote, "With regards to claims that we have destroyed information, those claims are not true. We took appropriate steps to preserve information relevant to the DFEH investigation. We have provided the DFEH with clear evidence that we do not have gender pay or promotion disparities. Our senior leadership is increasingly diverse, with a growing number of women in key leadership roles across the company." End quote. So we haven't talked about Activision Blizzard in a bit. Mm-hmm. By bit, I think it was just last week. So in one episode, in 1 week, we haven't talked about it.
I think we did last week.
Did we? I
think we did.
I don't remember. I just want to emphasize that it's important to remember when this lawsuit first dropped, Activision's Activision Blizzard's response was, "This is total bullcrap," and now their response is, "Hey, we're sorry. We made these decisions. We made these changes." So a total 180.
And now we're not doing anything to stop the investigation.
I mean, if there's a worse way to look, you'll have to show me, because Activision Blizzard so far has done nothing.
They've checked all the bad move boxes.
Yes. If this were a movie, we'd be 30 minutes in and go, okay, we get it. They're the villain. Like, you don't have to keep telling us this at this point. I don't have much else to say, but that Activision Blizzard apparently was a horrible company.
Yeah.
And still is, apparently. So, yeah.
It's just going to get even more interesting if it turns out that they were destroying evidence, because
yeah, that's quite a thing to allege.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, that's a pretty big claim.
Mm-hmm.
But when you remember how certain people in the corporate sphere of Activision Blizzard reacted, and how Activision Blizzard itself acted, and how that's completely 180. How do you trust anything that company says if it's not coming from workers groups or anything? How do you trust anything that comes out of that, like that company's PR, especially a PR arm, whatever, PR department that we know was useless, was impotent. Like, so it's a huge allegation to make.
But it seems valid to make said allegation.
It's just like Activision Blizzard has just made themselves look worse as time has gone on. So, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't surprise me there. It's stunning,
mm-hmm.
but it wouldn't surprise me, if that makes any sense, I guess.
It tracks.
As far as I'm aware, NDAs cannot be used for anything like they're stating. Like, it's only in relation to business.
Oh, I have no idea when we get into the legality.
Business ventures.
Yeah.
Like you can't just NDA, so you can't say anything. It's like, well, it's not really, like, it's a business thing, not
mm-hmm.
whatever.
I mean, it's not a blanket statement saying you can't talk about this.
Yes, yeah.
You can't
only
talk
for
about this
company secrets
within
related.
these parameters.
And I know there are also, I think they're called shield laws, which are laws that if you talk with I'm fumbling.
Better get it right.
Now.
You better get it right.
I know, because it has to do with journalism. It's either laws that protect sources or laws that protect the journalists themselves.
Sure.
So they can't be like held in contempt if they don't want to reveal sources. So there are ways to. All I'm trying to say, I'm trying to just make a connection between something else I know.
Witnesses.
Yeah, protects something else I know in the legal world, where companies will try and figure out who a whistleblower is, and the court will stop them or whatever.
I feel like everything that the DFEH has done since their lawsuit has been brought forth, like they've done it because they have the evidence needed to present all this. And if they are coming out and stating these claims, it sounds like they have someone on the inside who is giving them this information. Which
this point,
I'm sure if Activision is as bad as they say as bad as we see them to be at the moment, there are definitely probably people out to get them, like on the inside, employees and stuff. So this doesn't surprise me, but it's just then it got worse.
Yes, yeah.
That's it.
And something I think is also worth repeating is the more stories that we've had surrounding something like this, the more people are open to taking a chance and talking with a journalist, or taking their story somewhere, or not putting up with some shitty company, right?
Mm-hmm. So
the first big one in the past 2 years was Riot, and then Ubisoft, and now Activision Blizzard, and then there was Crunch stories mixed in there. So I think people, more than 2015 or 2014, right? Definitely more than the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think people today are way more willing to put jobs on the line, or put job security on the line, to talk with journalists or whatever, which is absolutely a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it's an industry that needs fixing, and the people in positions that could fix the industry are not fixing it.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. So I think on the whole, that's a good thing. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Naughty Dog's bosses discussed crunch, and other developers decided to speak out. So this began over the weekend after Game Informer talked with Naughty Dog co-presidents Evan Wells and Neil Druckmann. It's a pretty wide-ranging interview. Talks about a lot of different stuff, including Naughty Dog's name and how they got it. At one point, Wells and Druckmann were asked about crunch at Naughty Dog. There is a couple long quotes here, but I don't know how to cut them down without cutting out things that are important. So I'm just going to read both of these quotes. So when asked about crunch at Naughty Dog, Wells said, quote, "I have definitely personally worked very hard over the years. I think some of that has helped me get to where I am in my career. As a studio, we've all worked hard together, and we are working very hard on every project to find the right balance. We look at how the whole game was created and where we can make improvements and how we can strike the right balance between giving people the opportunity to leave their mark on the industry and advance their craft in ways that have never been achieved, but also find space along that spectrum," end quote. Druckmann said, quote, "Everybody has a different definition of what crunch means. And I guess for us, we think of it as how do we look out for the well-being of our colleagues and everyone that works at Naughty Dog, which is some combination of how many hours you work and how much stress you're feeling, whether that's something that's going on in the office or at home. We find there is no one solution that fits everybody," end quote. This got some reaction online. Carrie Patel, who is the game director / senior designer at Obsidian Entertainment, said, and I'm paraphrasing here, she said essentially that sometimes it's not as simple as one person decides they're going to work extra hours and then everyone else decides, well, we're not going to. Because if that person works extra hours and they're in the art department, that may mean that someone who works in AI, programming, writing, they all have to finish something that person started. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if they all do 100% of the work and then one person does 110%, everyone else has to finish their portion of that 10%, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as, well, these people decided to crunch. Crunching may
affect other
people's workflow. And it also, people may be crunching because they're afraid of losing their jobs or because they're afraid of looking like they're lazy or whatever. So it's not always one person. It's not always the motivation isn't always because I want to get extra work done or because I'm passionate about it. It's also because you may be afraid of losing your job or something like that. We haven't talked about crunch in a bit.
Yeah, no, not for a while.
Which could be seen as a good thing.
Could be. There's a lot of other stuff going on right now, though. But I don't know if it's me, but I feel like Wells and Druckmann's responses were very, very much avoiding giving an answer. they very much were as vague as they could have been.
Let's talk about crunch. But what really is crunch when we talk about it?
Not only that, but it was just, oh yeah, I've worked hard. Look at the great game we made.
Back in my day, we worked hard 24/7.
And I don't know if I don't know why this is such a hard question for them to answer. And I don't understand how it's not. I mean, I do. How it's not easy to fix. Don't crunch, but you want to get your game out on time. You want to impress the shareholders. You want to make the money before the quarter ends. Whatever. But I felt like the answer that Druckmann and Wells gave were very, very bloated and poor as far as the question they were being asked.
Crunch is a really complicated systemic problem, and I think you're right in saying that there's no one way to fix it, and that it's not easy to fix. But just because it's a complicated problem doesn't mean that the answer is to toss your hands in the air and go, well, I guess we just do nothing. You know? And they're not saying that, but I feel like sometimes that's a vibe I get, or that it's this, because it's this big systemic thing, you just can't fix it. You know?
Sounds like it.
And there are ideologies where it's just like, hey, big systemic problems, if there isn't an easy fix, you just got to ride the bull until it stops. There's just nothing you can do about it, which sucks. Yeah. And I don't think it's true either. So now I think talking about crunch, talking about a lot of things in video games, I don't have a leg to stand on because I've never worked in the games industry. But I feel like crunch is just, it's the name we give to working too much and at times abusive relationships in the games industry. But there are other cultures and other sectors of life that I feel are really similar. I remember when I played high school football, it was right around 2010. That was
lots of crunching there.
Yes, different kind of crunching. That was right at the time when concussions were becoming a thing, right? And like the mid 2000s, League of Denial was written, and the NFL were starting to deal with lawsuits and head trauma, and players that play in the 70s were getting dementia and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And so that was right around 2010. But the culture in football was essentially concussions aren't a big deal.
Shake it off.
Right? Shake it off. Got your bell rung. You have a headache. That you can still play with a headache, right? And even into college, that was the culture, right? Which is destructive and can be abusive depending on how it's treated. And it was systemic because those coaches played with coaches who didn't care, and then they took that culture. And those coaches, especially at the higher levels, professional high school or professional and college, those coaches are paid money to keep players on the field. So if it's an injury that they cannot see that's in a player's head, they're going to be less likely to take it serious, right?
Yes.
And I think up until now, it has taken 10 years to the point where concussions are taken far more seriously at higher levels and at lower levels than they were when I was there, right? And that was systemic change that took scientific evidence and doctors coming out saying, hey, this isn't great. But I think crunch is similar, right? So, and the reason I'm telling that story is because I feel like sometimes people may think that because if you don't work in the industry, you don't really know what crunch is, or you don't really know how to tackle crunch. And I think on one hand, that's true. But on the other hand, a lot of people have experiences with systemic problems in their workplace or in their cultures that are really similar. And I think concussions is really similar. So when I look at concussions, I think, okay, well, that was solved somewhat. So crunch, could crunch be solved? And I think it could. But when it comes to like specific solutions, that's when I stop, because I can't, because the specifics are different, because I'm not going to know. And Carrie Patel, what she said on Twitter was interesting, because I had never even thought of that before, right? The cultural pressure of, hey, I'm crunching, but you don't have to, wink, wink, right? That I understood. Because just like in football, I twisted my ankle, so, but I'm going to keep playing. But you twisted your wrist or whatever. No, it's okay. Sit out, wink, wink. It's okay.
Yeah.
As in, I'm playing hurt. Why don't you play hurt? Kind of thing. But her point that if people crunch, it can put undue work on other departments. Yeah. I had never thought of that before. And that's a problem that I would have no idea how to fix. And I think it's difficult to fix even if you work in the industry. And from her tweets, it seemed like that was true.
Yeah.
That it's not an easy thing to fix. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, no, that creates an air of resentment to and you kind of like all the teams will argue and eat themselves out from the inside. Yeah, that is a great quote. I never thought of that either, but
yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, and sorry, I'm really bothered by like the Wells and Druckmann quote because it's very it's just like they don't have to deal with it. Like really, like do they really have to deal? Do Druckmann and Wells really have to deal with the crunch unlike all the other guys? Like it sounds like the crunch is the only, and well, it's like you said, it's systemic. That's the way they get their stuff done. So if you take that away, they're going to be like, well, how are we going to do this? It's like, the only way they've ever known, and that's the way that works. So you do it that way, and so it's just very focused on that, in my opinion.
Well, in Wells' defense, he worked very hard in the past.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
yeah, and I agree that I agree with your sentiment there. I do think it's sort of wishy-washy and corporate-y. A little like what I remember Cyberpunk CEO what he said. And I think it reminds me a lot of, and I'm sorry I keep going back to this, but it reminds me of a lot of how coaches would speak about concussions. You know, it was, well, you know, kids get head injuries, you got to be careful out there. But you could just sort of feel it that it was, 9 out of 10 times it's just a headache. It's not really a concussion, you know, because it's been ingrained for a long time that, head injuries and blah, blah, blah. And so if you're someone who was brought up where crunch was just a fact,
or just how it's done,
and now you're being told that it's wrong, I would totally believe that I'm not saying these people in specifically, but just people in general, that you look at it and say you people are just complaining, or this is just the nature of the industry. But I don't think it has to be the nature of the industry. Is it the nature of an industry where every game has to be a $6 trillion hit and it has to be put out every so often or whatever by billion-dollar companies? Maybe, and that's where this discussion gets really uncomfortable. Is the industry what parts of the industry are unsustainable, and how could they be made more equitable, and to the point where developers don't have to work that much? And if that means the industry doesn't make as much money, well then okay, but with that I would feel like that's the better solution than people just crunching, right? And Hades is a good example of a phenomenal game that was not crunched on. Hades is not Last of Us 2, right? There's a lot of dialogue, but it's not as mechanically complex as Last of Us 2, but there's still a ton of game there, and they didn't have to crunch on it. So studios have figured it out. Anyway, I'm done rambling. Okay. No More Hero. Thank you, Connor. Okay, thanks. No More Heroes 3 review embargo lifted after it launched. This was before its release on August 27th. No More Heroes 3 had a review embargo lifted at 9 a.m. Eastern, which was 9 hours after its official release. There was some pushback by media and fans, which led to the embargo being pulled back, to midnight. So it was at 9 a.m. and then at midnight. So it was the embargo lifted as soon as the game released. A PR rep for the game said, quote, "We originally set our review embargo date to minimize the chance of spoilers for fans, as they have been waiting for quite a while for the third installment. But in light of fan demand expressed today online, we are readjusting the date." No More Heroes 3 got mixed reviews. IGN's Matt Kim gave it a 6. Tom Regan at The Guardian gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Was that one you were going to play?
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of No More Heroes.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you were telling me about Touchdown Tom or whatever his name is.
Travis Touchdown.
Yeah, that Touchdown Tom may be one of Tom Brady's 18 nicknames. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think them saying no review embargoes for spoilers is just a giant pile of bullshit.
Could be.
I half there. Continue. Sorry.
Well, I mean, how often do people like read the review and be like, oh, I wish they didn't spoil that? I think journalists are good enough at determining what's a spoiler and what's not a spoiler to keep the spoilers out. And if they aren't, then, next time you release a game, don't give that company or that reviewer a review code.
I think so. I agree. I think what they're trying to hint at is if a reviewer says something in a game or in a review, that bit gets taken and gets posted on a subreddit somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how the spoilers spread.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, as far as I can remember, most big spoiler rings that have happened because of game have not happened because of reviews. they've happened because of leaks, right? Naughty Dog being the most recent one, and Neil Druckmann and the Game Informer article that we just talked about how disappointed Naughty Dog was when the story was leaked online as well. So anyway, I just don't. I understand publishers wanting to protect spoilers, or to stop spoilers, and I understand developers being disappointed by spoilers.
Yeah.
But I don't see the evidence see the evidence that reviews lead to that, because I do think that most reviewers understand that.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that a lot. In Returnal, the video I made for Returnal, the entire video is just the first realm, right?
Yeah.
Except for one 5-second shot that's looking at a corner somewhere. And that's just because I understood that not a lot of people have a PS5. And people that have a PS5, maybe they're playing Ghost and playing a couple different games. So I didn't want to show off a bunch of different stuff from Returnal when now even more people aren't going to get to the third or fourth stage in Returnal for a long time.
And setting up a 9-hour review embargo isn't going to stop people from talking about it on Reddit once they start playing the game.
At midnight.
So the whole we're doing it to protect spoilers, I'm now more entrenched that it is just them trying to be able to sell their game without a review out. Because whether or not the game gets a review released at midnight or 9 hours after release, people are still going to be talking about the game on Reddit. There's still going to be spoilers or potential spoilers
on Twitter,
online, on Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube, everything else. So saying, well, journalists can't talk about it, but everyone else can is keeping
silly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Is keeping the journalists away from the sales.
And I think if you are writing for a website and you spoil something, that's a detriment to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that'll affect your website negatively. And I understand that. Let me say this, because this is also an issue, is that people have different levels of what is a spoiler. Like, Richard, you're pretty lax about spoilers, at least compared to me.
For the most part, yeah.
Compared to me, right? But I understand that about myself, so I won't watch. Like, I'm conscious of that.
Yeah.
So if I watch a video of a game that I don't want to know about, and I don't like something that I see, I don't blame them, because I'm conscious of the things that I do not want to see, right? I think people want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to have things spoiled, but they want to watch all the preview gameplay and blah, blah, blah that IGN, puts out all the time and stuff like that. So, and people, so I understand that some people just have ridiculous expectations about what spoilers are and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think that's just an important point to make, but Connor, I think that's a good point. And I think that pretty much puts a bow on the discussion there. Yeah. Because I just don't think reviews,
quote George Carlin, it's all bullshit.
I just don't think reviews are a huge part of, like, Twitch streamers playing the game, I think would be a bigger thing.
At release.
Spoiling it.
Yeah,
at release. Yeah. Go ahead, Richard. You look like you wanted to speak. Or did you not want to speak?
No, I did. And now, like, I keep blinking whenever it's my turn to talk. Passive
aggressive.
I don't think this particular. I couldn't care less about the spoiler excuse because of the exact reasons you all have stated. It's because everybody's going to be talking about it online. So why does it matter? I don't think that having them have a review embargo for the day the game comes out isn't as bad as Bethesda not even sending the game out until the day before the game comes out, to reviewers. So, I mean, I think that's a worse policy. But
absolutely.
There's definitely worse. There's definitely worse embargo policies, sure.
And I don't think this will hurt, particularly this game. I understand where they're coming from with that spoiler talk, because this is actually the final installment of the game. Yeah. So it's kind of like the culmination of everything. But it's not going to hurt it, because the people who already want to buy the game are going to buy the game. And we already know that there's a huge disparity between reviewers and the audience. And we can look at Days Gone, which got swimming in sevens.
Yep.
And but the audience loved it. Like, the audience is like one of their, people love that game. I still need to try it out. I'm not crazy interested, but If everybody says it's good, then it's like, okay,
Throw a
there
rock
must
to
be something
distract
good.
the guy.
Yeah.
There it happens.
And then recently, from what I've seen, Aliens Fireteam, it got like a 5.5 in Destructoid, like out of 10. But I go to Reddit and I go to like people are loving the game. It's because it's for me like Aliens Fireteam, and I looked at it, I was like, that looks like Aliens, but Left 4 Dead. So I already like. If I don't expect anything but that, like it's probably going to be pretty great, and that's what it seems to be. Is everybody's like, I expected this thing and I got it, so all right,
That, or they'll just look at the number on the review, like, oh, I'll pick it up, or I'll wait for a sale.
Yeah, sure.
Or,
I mean,
I'm not gonna play that.
Of course, there's the whole other audience who are just fans of Alien.
Yeah,
they'll just buy it because it's an Alien thing. So it's not going to hurt it. And
Tyler, looking at you,
I'm ashamed.
Mr. Aliens board game, Aliens RPG.
I've got the book in there that talks about. I hate it because I hate that there's a universe, but I also love that there's an Aliens universe. It's so silly to me to think that the 1979 movie, like, but before that, David created the goop that destroyed the engineers on the Prometheus planet. Like, it's so silly.
What are you talking about? There's only Alien and Aliens.
Is there? Thank God. Oh, yeah, Alien 3 never happened. Yeah, Newt didn't get her rib cage opened up by freaking Tywin Lannister. That didn't happen.
No.
I'm bitter about this.
I'm aware.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Not even the director's cut saved it. So that's my take on it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is an interesting discussion, particularly about the spoiler part, because I have seen, and I talked about this before issues we had, is that I have seen spoilers in reviews, but like I mentioned, it only came from like very independent outlets, like no one who was particularly quote unquote professional, and
sure.
I mean that as in like the top.
Eurogamer,
they're not
Kotaku.
the big
yes.
review sites.
Yeah, that's not a slight on like what they do. It's viewpoint.
Yeah,
okay. So, but that's it.
Alrighty. Did you want to do Death Stranding and Tid Bits, or how should we handle this?
You can just say it. There's really nothing to say.
It's a tidbit.
I'll only put this in there because
I'll put tidbits.
Okay, here we go. A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the Tid Bits.
Sequel to Death Stranding is in negotiations. This is according
in negotiations.
This is according to Adoro Cinema, a partner site of IGN Brazil. Norman Reedus apparently was in an interview and told the site, quote, "I think we're doing a second Death Stranding. Death Stranding 2 is in negotiations right now, so..." And then there's an ellipses. Yay.
The negotiations are whether or not they're going to stick with Monster or go to a different energy drink.
Yeah, right. Oh, actually, I've seen footage from the director's cut. It's a different can. It's not Monster Energy drink.
Is it
anymore.
something
it's
generic?
Just something generic. Yeah,
Oh,
it's made
thank God.
I think so. Yeah.
I will if I am lost in the desert, no food, no water, and there's a Monster Energy drink truck, and that is the only way that I can survive. I will look at the driver and I will say, "You ruined some of the better parts of Death Stranding, so I'm gonna die in the desert out of spite."
And he's
for
going to
your
look at you and be
company
like,
and
"You
your
can get in the
stupid
truck and we
energy
can drive
drink."
somewhere."
Anyway, sorry.
Not worth it, man. Not worth it. Phil Spencer says xCloud works well with Steam Deck.
There we go.
Thank you. Over on Twitter, Phil Spencer stated, quote, "Was at Valve Software this week talking with Scott, Eric, and Gabe about Steam Deck. Jesus. After having mine most of the week, I can say it's a really nice device. Games with me on the go, screen size, controls, all great. Playing Halo and all right. Well, anyways, play Halo.
Leica.
Yes.
Da cha-cha.
Oh, man. I'm screwed up tonight. Playing Halo feels good. xCloud works well. Congrats. God, what is SD team?
You're gonna make me pull out.
No, yeah,
like
Steam
a
Deck,
cha-cha
Steam Deck
again?
team.
Steam Deck team.
Okay.
Why do I put abbreviations in here if I don't know what the hell they
I don't
are?
even know. If you put something in the teleprompter, Richard will read it.
No sleep and other stuff is bad.
But the gist of it is,
It just
Steam Deck works. It just works.
I don't know where it's
True.
It's not that one.
There it is. It just works.
Okay.
A streamer accidentally discovers a Metal Gear Solid skip crucial for speedrunning. Twitch streamer Boba was streaming herself playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time ever, and after being attacked by some guards, she turned to fight them. At that moment, she accidentally ended up getting pushed backwards through a locked door, discovering a brand new glitch. Running from the guards, she ended up, upon a locked door, she turned to fight them. They shot her, and Snake's character model, like I mentioned before, just glitched through the locked door. Nobody has ever documented this glitch before, so it's a big deal.
Oh, nice.
All in all, this can save speedrunners anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes, which is a lot of time.
Whoa, that is huge.
Yeah.
Because this locked door requires you to like run up and down to like get to where you need to go. So speedrunners have already tested out this glitch and found out that it can be replicated reliably. So they're now calling it the Boba glitch, although she doesn't want it to be called the Boba glitch. Probably be humble, but she says they should call it Kevin. Just a funny thing.
Yeah.
Call of Duty Vanguard's file sizes have been revealed. According to the listings on the Microsoft Store, the Xbox One version of the game will take up approximately 75 gigs of space on the console, while the Series X and S versions will take up a bit more room at 95 gigs. However, a listing for the Call of Duty Vanguard Standard Edition for the Xbox One includes a bundle of the game, a last gen and current gen beta, and 5 content packs filled with unknown contents. This listing has the game at 175 gigabytes instead.
Oh my God.
See, I think this is interesting because I just realized my initial reaction was that's too much. But then, you're like, hey, do you want Red Dead? I'm like, let me clear off my PC for it.
Yeah, right.
Let me say this. I don't understand how game storage works. Mm-hmm. However, Elite Dangerous has billions of star systems. A lot of nothing, but
a lot of empty space.
Literally billions of star systems, an entire galaxy, planets that are fully mapped that you can land on, and I can install it in a couple hours. Call of Duty Vanguard has a couple microtransactions and maybe a single player gameplay,
everything.
Same gameplay, and I don't know. But I'm being tongue in cheek. I don't understand how these things work.
Yeah.
But dear Lord, that's huge.
That is bad.
Yeah.
Yes, that's horrible.
175. That is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't even continue. I'm sorry.
Rapper Soulja Boy claims that he is now the owner of Atari.
Is he?
No.
Okay.
Can you just say that sentence one more time?
Rapper Soulja Boy claims that he is now the owner of Atari.
Every single word in that sentence is just like a new adventure. It's like, what's going on?
Soulja Boy released a new video stating that Atari was impressed with the success of his Soulja game handheld consoles, that they signed 2 deals with him, and he is now selling his game company for $140 million. It should be noted that all of the aforementioned Soulja game consoles are all Chinese knockoffs filled to the brim with ROMs of official games, particularly games from Nintendo, NES, SNES, stuff like that. The handheld literally looks almost like a Vita, and the console version has a controller that is very obviously a PlayStation controller. So it's not like he made his own console. It's just a Chinese knockoff. Anyways, immediately after the story was published, Atari released a statement saying, "We know that being the CEO of Atari is a dream job, but that honor belongs to Wade Rosen."
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love it.
Okay.
And that's the Tid Bits.
Yay. To quote Norman Reedus.
Yay.
Look. Do you want to do NPDs? Because if we do it next week, we're going to have like NPDs like 2 weeks in a row. So.
Why are we talking about this in recording?
I don't know. July 2021 consumer spending across video game hardware, content, and accessories increased 10% when compared to a year ago. Still climbing, baby.
Okay.
Reaching a July record of $4.6 billion. Year-to-date spending totaled $33.5 billion, a 14% increase when compared to the same period in 2020. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword was the best-selling game of July 2021. Surprise.
Yeah, what? Skyward Sword?
HD, sorry. Yeah. The re-release for Switch.
I was like, what the hell?
Sorry, I forgot 2 letters.
How dare you?
It is the first Nintendo-published title to lead the monthly bestsellers chart since the launch of Super Mario 3D World, February 2021 tracking month. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin debuted as the 3rd best-selling game of July 2021. Launch month sales for Monster Hunter Stories 2 more than tripled the lifetime sales of the first Monster Hunter Stories, originally released back in 2017 on the 3DS. Black Ops Cold War ranked as the second best selling game of the month of July and remains the best selling game of 2021 year to date. Cold War was the best selling game of the month on both PlayStation and Xbox platforms.
That's interesting. Yeah.
You can't stop it. MLB The Show 21 surpassed Resident Evil Village to become the second best selling game of 2021. Year to date sales of MLB The Show 21 are the highest in franchise history.
That's interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's on multiple consoles now.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
July 2021 spending on video game accessories increased 11% when compared to a year ago, reaching $189 million. Year-to-date accessory sales totaled $1.4 billion, an increase of 13% when compared to the same period in 2020. And The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD Joy-Cons were the best-selling accessory of July in dollar sales. The DualSense remains the best-selling accessory year-to-date. Last piece here. I was not here on the 23rd when you guys did your, when we did the podcast. I wish I was, because that was the 30th anniversary of the SNES console. It released in limited quantities on August 23rd, 1991, and nationwide release a couple of weeks later on September 9th. Throughout its lifetime, it has sold 49.1 million units. And real quick, you know what? I'm going to skip that. That's just the trivia.
Okay.
The rest are names and numbers of like the best-selling Super Nintendo games, but we'll forget that.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. Go check out the Returnal video Pathless review. Will be up soon. I should have mentioned
at
that
least next week. Yeah,
at least next week. So I don't know. We'll have to. If you don't have it up by next Monday, we'll definitely talk about it next Monday. And we'll see you.
Bye.